So good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Welcome to our panel discussion on the impact of COVID-19 on schools. I'm Chandrama Pradhan, Principal Sri Academy Siliguri, and I would like to thank and welcome our esteemed guest for coming on board today for this session. Now, we have with us Mr. Nitya Ramaswami, a visionary leader with over 4 decades in the educational sector management. She has served as a teacher, principal, executive director, and mentor for schools in India as well as abroad. She's a qualified auditor of the Quality Council of India and impaneled with the CBSE. Currently, she's director of Alpha Learning and she's based in Mumbai. So welcome, Ma'am Nitya. Dr. Prabhat Kaushik has worked with the Ministry of Defense as a trainer, assessor, and educator. He has been working with Dubai schools as independent member for school quality review to establish best practices and processes. His projects like Gifted Children and Child Guidance have been working towards imbibing values from early childhood. He is the mentor and trainer for CBSE. Currently, he is president of CBSE Sahodaya and Director General of Z-Learn. He is based in Rajasthan. Mr. Murlidhar Koteshwar is an engineer by profession, but very passionate about education. He has conducted workshops for parents and teachers across the country and globally, and he has reached out to over 1 million people. He is also responsible for establishing over 100 schools, institutions under the Art of Living Foundation. Currently, he is the managing director of Mentor Cloud and Mentor Education at Art of Living Foundation. He is based in Bangalore. We also have with us our director, Mrs. Prachi Agarwal, a young, dynamic person who's passionate about education and child development. And she's joining us from Kolkata. So I'd like to welcome each one of you and thank you very much for being here. So we would start the session by asking about the question which is in everyone's mind. So I would like to request Mrs. Agarwal to begin the discussion by asking a question to our panelists.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction, ma'am. And I would also like to welcome all the panel members today for joining us because there is a burning question that is driving us all today. And this is something that the world has never seen before nor anticipated. And we as educators, a big responsibility lies on us as educators and as parents to groom and develop the young children and their minds on how to handle such situations. So I would like to know from each one of you, what are your views on what would be the impact of COVID-19 virus, today and how to expect it forward? Ma'am Nitya, I would request you to please share your views first.
Yeah, the most important point that we have to keep in mind is to enable our children learn to see positive in the negative. Well, it is definitely all of us have to be in lockdown and we have to be at home and also safe. At the same time, this is an opportunity for us as educators to enable them to acquire a skill. Now, for example, what we did was science has proven that 21 days is the time period for anyone to acquire a habit. Any habit can be cultivated if it is repeatedly done with a routine in mind for 21 days. So the first 21 days, we enable the children look at the negative in a very positive way. And we told them there are 3 things that they need to develop as good habits. One is to be able to think positive, to take care of themselves. So we started with 3 yoga exercises which were repeated every day for the first 21 days. And the second part is to be able to communicate. Most important is to articulate when you're at home with the elders, with the family members, with help, with friends, online, whatever it is. Communication is a very, very critical attribute and skill and habit that all of us have to develop. So and it's also listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So these are the moments when we do not have to dwell saying, oh, the COVID has struck us. It's not to talk about COVID. It has to be talk about how we take this positively ahead. What is the time that we can actually enable the develop, think, feel, and act? And the last part is most important. We enable the children develop the habit of journaling. We must not forget that there is some part of history that is being created and we are part of it. And children must be able to remember that these days are a part of history which they can talk about 10 years later. So simply, I would want to say that nothing is negative. There is a positive in every negative situation, and we as educators have to tap the potential with the children. And this is what we did for the first 21 days. And now the other panelists can give their opinion, and then I'll tell you what I did for the next 21 days.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Kaushik, please share your view.
I think after listening to Ms. Nitya Ramaswami, there's nothing left to be answered. She covers up almost everything. However, post COVID-19, once we are up and running, there are challenges to be faced by the schools, by the children, by the parents, by all stakeholders in terms of how are we going to segregate them, how are we going to have kind of social distancing, then sanitization, and all those factors have to be taken into care before opening the schools. So I don't see the schools opening very soon. Reason being the ecosystem is not yet ready, but I still also see an opportunity for the kids and their parents to learn the personal hygiene, which was a pain point in India. We were never taught about personal hygiene, hand hygiene, oral hygiene, face hygiene. So now at least the children have learned a lot about this kind of things, and I'm sure maybe because of this pandemic, the Indians will develop a habit of being clean. So post COVID-19, I see a challenge for the transport of the school. I see the challenge for the teachers to manage the children. I see the challenge for school authorities to manage so many children on their campus. So last one of the meetings with government, I was asked to speak. So I said one thing, that there are challenges which need to be faced. There could be two parts or two shifts of the schools to be running, at least dividing the strength of the school into two, and then maintaining social distance and other things. Because given the number in Indian schools, it is difficult to maintain anything the way you want, be it social distancing or be it hygiene or anything. So, but there are questions also to be answered along with. How are we going to manage transport? How are we going to manage so many kids? Even if it is half, it will be, number will be in some schools in thousands. So despite of that, it's going to be a tough task for them to manage. Now, teachers, same teachers, it will be unjust for the teachers to work for 2 shifts in a day. So this is a thought, even in the moment these days. They're thinking that can we have 2 shifts in schools and then practice this distancing and hygiene, etc. But that does not answer the question. Because they have the strength of 4,000, 5,000 children in one campus.
So your audio is not.
So managing 2,000, 3,000 children with those.
Not audible.
So there's a little disturbance in your audio.
This might be, I'm in a place where the probably internet connection is not at the best. So
it's a little better now.
Am I audible?
Yes, it's better now.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm trying to make a point is that the schools authorities will have to start preparing the plan B now. How are we going to ensure that the children coming to schools after COVID-19 will be taken care of? The online classes are not a solution, because there is no bandwidth in the country which can support the children. If you see today's time, from 9 a.m. to maybe 1:30 or 2 p.m., you will find, all lines are almost jammed. And it is difficult to hear, the voice on many social, all these online platforms. So children are struggling. The teachers are struggling. This is not the answer. So teacher will have to come back to the class. Children will have to come back to the class. But one good thing which we have to learn to live with it, with the COVID-19, because this COVID-19 is not going to go. It is going to be in the ecosystem. So the children are finally to be prepared to live with it, and to live with it in such a manner that you are not getting affected. So I think for others, I will be here for 5 more minutes. So if there are any questions, I would love to answer. Otherwise, you may continue after.
I think after Mr. Murlidhar can give his views, then I'll come back to you, Dr. Kaushik.
Sure.
Thank you for this opportunity. I think in just a few decades, you will have this term called as BC, DC, and AC. It'll be before Corona, after Corona, and during Corona. Because it's happening once in a century. Last was 1918, when there was lockdown all over the world. In fact, it helped stop the World War I because soldiers were getting infected, and therefore it was one way. That's a positive thing, like Nitya ma'am was saying. So yes, it's really, really important to be positive. But we need to do what we call in business as planning. What are the options that are possible? So Dr. Kaushik rightly talked about maintaining social distance and things like that. But at least from what I know of the government, I don't think until a vaccine is done, or I don't think they'll allow the children to go back to schools. They may allow even college students, but children below 10, they will definitely not allow. Even if the government opens up, the parents won't send them. You will find that as a different thing. So therefore, in my opinion, there is a possibility that the whole world is running towards trying to develop a vaccine, just like how polio vaccine became very successful. Some vaccine, and then the first right will start to be given to students so that they can come back to school and continue their studies, right? In fact, if you've seen the movie Contagion, you get an idea of what is prioritization. So as a society, the government will have to work with NGOs and schools and institutions and decide what is the priority. So I believe priority one will of course be all the people who are being treated, medical doctors and all that. But immediately after that would be schools, to ensure that education doesn't you can't wind back, right? So that will happen. I feel that's what's going to happen. Now, it needs what we call a chatka to get people to look at different ways of education. So campus online, school online, okay? Definitely it's not a long-term thing. You cannot teach, you cannot educate, but at least things that you can teach, some skills, some small skills, need not necessarily be just what is there in the syllabus, but something else other than that. It could be an opportunity to teach that. That's what I feel, that you can, some life skills, it could, it need not be something that requires a board. You go and, or you're actually doing experiments practical. So something other than purely academics, we can use this opportunity and teach them these things, life skills. It could be even things to become more healthier, yogasana, pranayama, and things like that. So that it could be an opportunity for that. So my view is that, from at least my opinion is that I think until the situation is really stabilized, it's easy, because at least my grandparents, when we were kids, have told us about the time when so many lives were lost in India due to so many such plague-like diseases. So that knowledge continues. So children coming to school without, you can't like Dr. Kaushik rightly said, you can't expect them to maintain social distance on their own. The children will not do that. And if you now do, 2 shifts, uh, schools can't afford to have new teachers and train them and bring them. And existing teachers, it's not fair to get them to work so hard. So, uh, this is my feeling. I think that all of us, which say, realize that yes, there's a possibility that in addition to what is there in the syllabus, there are some life skills that we can teach them. Probably use this opportunity during COVID. Post COVID, I'm not able to think too much about it, because until the government comes back with a clear plan and saying, hey, great, we've got a vaccine now, so let's do, then that's a plan. Then that's post COVID. Then we have to discuss how to catch up. But during COVID, I feel this is what we can do. Try and see how we can use this opportunity to give some life skills to students.
Thank you. So Dr. Kaushik, I'll ask you the next question. It's a question which is slightly difficult, and I'm not very comfortable asking this, but I think it's relevant, and this is a problem faced by almost all the schools across the country and outside the country also. And I know that you have spoken about it in various TV channels also. It's a question regarding parents, especially of the children studying in private schools, are not willing to pay the school fees. So how do we deal with this situation? Because this is a problem faced by almost everyone. Not a topic that people would like to, discuss, but somehow I think we need to bring it to the surface so that parents as well as all stakeholders are aware of what are the problems faced by the school. So if you could share your thoughts on this. I'm sorry, it's a little dark this side. It's gone. Yes.
I lost your audio. Is this question to me?
Yeah. Shall I ask you again?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Fine.
So this is a topic that you have spoken about earlier. I think in various TV channels also you have addressed this question. You have addressed this question. This is regarding parents, especially in private schools.
I got the point. Okay.
You got it?
I got the point. See, the issue is at 3 places. One is with the government, one is with the schools, and the one is with the staff. So right. Normally staff per se, not only school staff, but the staff of industry and other establishments. What is happening in most of the places, government is trying to mandate that the salaries needs to be paid. But factual situation is that no organization or establishment has the money to pay the salaries. So if the salaries are not paid, then teachers will not be paid. If the teachers are not paid, how learning of the schools students will happen? Teachers are part of the same kind of society where government is saying that salary need to be paid, but at the same time, government is saying that for next 3 months there has to be deferment of everything. Now, if you defer everything and no parent pays, so close to 95% schools in the country cannot pay the salaries of March and April to their staff members. Now, if that situation becomes such, not only for the teachers, I'm not worried much for the teachers. Teachers are an educated lot. They will understand. But what I'm worried for the other workforce in the school, like your transport staff, your support staff, your other staff members, if they leave the job and find somewhere in the industry, it will be difficult for you to run the show. So it is really very tricky situation where the governments, because of their vote bank politics, they'll have to give sweeping statements of helping the parents and not charging, and at the same time saying that the school need to pay the salaries to the staff. And most schools, if I may talk about, say, in private sector in India, hardly 10,000, 12,000 schools make profit. Most of the schools are not making profit these days under the current circumstances. And those 10 to 12,000 schools are those schools which have really done very well in past. And currently they are also not saving much. So since schools do not save much, and since new schools struggle to even meet the expenses, it is difficult to maintain the situation in an environment where government says the salaries are to be mandated and to be given to the staff, and otherwise situation also warrants that if your teachers, if your support staff is not paid on time, they might find some other places. So schools are going to face a tremendous pressure on the resources, financial resources in post-COVID, because the parents have developed a habit. Those who have the funds, they are also waiting that government might give some relief out of the fee. People are not paying. I keep hearing the schools that the parents are saying that first you waive off 3 months fees or 3 months transport. I heard the education minister of Uttarakhand yesterday. He was saying that why buses, the transport fee is charged every month, whereas buses have not plied on the roads. So if I was there in front of him, I would have answered that bus running cost is only diesel, and diesel cost is very low. One bus, one child, maybe around 400, 300 rupees a month, the diesel expenses. Meaning all other expenses are on salaries. Those things school will have to bear. Now, for government making a sweeping statement that since the buses are not used, why the fee is charged? At the same time, need to pay the fees if there are no classes. And the online struggling by the teachers and all that is discounted for. So what I see is government will have to take a holistic view and then work towards it. There has been presentations to the Minister of HRD, who is reading those proposals, and hopefully will come out of some solutions to the schools.
Thank you, Dr. Kaushik.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I have a question for
Chandrama. I'll have to leave, so please pardon me. Huh?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Kaushik.
Thank you.
Dr. Kaushik. It was wonderful having you.
Thank you.
So the next question is for Mr. Nitya Ramaswamy. You already touched upon it for the head, heart and head question. So I understand that you work very closely with the children and parents, and you enable children in different ways. Now the lockdown is an ideal time to develop the habits of the head, heart and hand. And like you said, it takes 21 days to form a habit. So could you just elaborate on that? So you just touched upon it.
Yeah. So the first, what we did was, but the one part of it is to be very mindful about your breathing, to be very mindful about the first important thing is the breath. So we taught the children how to be mindful about their breathing, and we gave them 1 or 2 breathing exercises which are demonstrated. Just 3 exercises which were done repeatedly for them to take care of self. Like we always say, even in the aircraft, they tell you to fix the oxygen mask before helping your neighbor. So it's important for you to take care of yourself, and for you to take care of yourself, the most important is your breath. And then the physical exercise, the mind and body has to be aligned. Now, with respect to communication, I gave them a number of examples of, and one very interesting method that we followed was, I narrated the story of Anne Frank. Little children, she was just 12 when she was in a lockdown for 2.5 years. We are talking about 21 days. And in those 2.5 years, how did that child feel? How did she think? How did she act with the people in the room, and how history was created? And she was given a little book on her 13th birthday by the lady who gave shelter to them, and how she utilized that. So with these little narratives, I was able to, and I made the children write, and they would send back little notes to me. about what they feel, what they did. And most important is the last part which I taught them. One is to think, and to act is to be grateful, to show gratitude on a day-to-day basis, to maintain a gratitude journal. I am thankful for what made me glad today, what made me mad today, what made me sad today. If it was glad, mad, and sad, and what made you glad? So be grateful for that. Most important habit that we all need to cultivate in our children is gratitude. Because once you're grateful for what you have, you will learn how to respect. So for gratitude, I told them for the 21 days, every day, whenever dal or rice is being cooked in their house, they have to take ek mutti dal or ek mutti chawal and put it away. Collect it for the 21 days, and at the end of 21 days, give it away to a person. You have so many migrant laborers on the roads who are struggling. And this is something you're sharing out of what you are eating. You're not buying from outside. We don't encourage children to buy or think. So from your own house, ek mutti dawal, ek mutti chawal. So we told them, keep these 2 boxes. And every day when food is being cooked, put it aside. And if you want, even when you're having a glass of milk, if you want, you just ask mama to say that, okay, keep aside some milk. Probably you can't collect milk every day, but then you can take it as a liter of milk given away to the children. So this is how you show gratitude. That is the, spiritual quotient for me, it is not about religion. It's not about, it is to leave a legacy of sharing from what you have. That is so important to partake. And then I told them about the importance of the story of Rosa Parks, who was also a child, who could not understand why did she have to stand when a white man entered. So she just sat down. She said, no, I'm not going to get up. To be able to light the spark within, to stand for what is right, no matter what. So that story, and then the narrative was given to them. And the most important, what I shared was, it is not only important to have the leadership quality, you should also learn to be the first follower. And I narrated the beautiful story right from Alexander the Great. Napoleon was influenced by Alexander the Great, of how scientific he was in his approach, and right from childhood. And then when Napoleon was fighting the wars and he was an emperor general, he was the one who told his Charles Babbage, his general, to write down the script at night. And that gave birth to Braille. That was taken ahead by Louis Braille. And when Louis Braille started doing that, that was further taken ahead by Helen Keller. And all these were children. Louis Braille identified this when he was 12. Helen Keller did all this, and then we spoke about a lot of childhood stories of children who were in lockdown in different situations, and how every moment can be used for you to develop something, to develop the way you think, feel, and act. Are you going to be a different child post-COVID lockdown? Are you going to think, feel, and act differently? And that is what we focused on, to develop and awaken the leader within you, to develop a habit within you, be mindful and be grateful. So this is what we focused on the first 40 days. Every day, I would spend time like this with the parents and the children and send a message and have a discussion. So this really helped, and I've got very positive feedback from the parents, who said that, yes, there is a change. Every day the child says, Ma, did you keep one handful of rice aside? Even today, even after the 21 days, the children ask their mother, have you kept dal and rice separately? Which is something I feel a legacy that they will give. So this is what we did to develop the head, very simple ones, but through stories. For me, narratives are very important to touch a child where emotions are involved. And that is what we did.
Thank you. A very simple method, and parents can follow it at home also regularly. That being grateful is something that they can start developing here. Now, Mr. Murlidhar, the government has suggested that children below the age of 10 and seniors above 65 should not venture out during lockdown. While the elders will continue to stay at home, they'll stay indoors, they'll protect themselves even after the lockdown is over. But how do we ensure that the children continue their studies? They cannot be at home and continue with the studies, especially children below the age of 10.
I think that age group 5 to 10 is going to be the biggest challenge for anyone,
Right.
because uh, remote learning is something that they've not done. But I think a lot of people are in parallel working towards giving them some solutions. Uh, there are people who are doing animated things so that some concepts can be learned, not not merely by just talking. Because many places, like Nitya ma'am rightly was saying, the internet may not be good enough. It's not working. Even Dr. Kaushik referred to it.
Hmm.
It's not a long-term solution at all. And children love to have a teacher with them, and they love to show that they've done at that age 5 to 10. Right? For them, the teacher is the most important person in their life, sometimes even more than the mother. If the teacher is good and they've built a nice relationship. So that is going to be something that is missing during the corona period. And post-corona, I'm really doubtful whether any mother will send the child to school until there is a real, solution. Because see, even yesterday's news, Amit Rana, he's just 31, a police constable, right? The moment he got the infection, he died within 48 hours. So who will want to take the risk? If they have, and today's world, I mean, you can validate whether I'm saying okay or not. Majority have maximum 2 children. And in fact, I would say 50% would be one child nowadays, the last few years that I've seen. So why will they take risks? Why will they take risks? Their immunity compared to older people is much lower, because that's the growing age and they have to put on weight and so on. So the immunity is lesser. That's why they say till 16 they get more of cold, more of cough. And this is a type of cold. This is a type of virus that affects the lungs. So I think that's going to be a very big challenge. But the rest of the world is going to work towards, for every part of the syllabus. I know a few companies already doing that. They are going to be giving modules, which will help the child learn the same topics without necessarily having to be in school. That's what I feel right now. Because I'm trying to connect with friends who have children in that age. I did already talk to them. They're saying nothing doing. If they lose 1 year, I'm okay. I'm not willing to take that risk, because this particular constable was not allowed in 3 hospitals. They were so petrified, they didn't allow him. He finally went to a government hospital, and he was there for 2 days, and he passed away. So, and it's gone viral. The whole news has gone viral. So parents will not take that risk. So I think we must push somehow. World has to work together and get that vaccine out, get that treatment out. There's some good news coming from Italy. Let's see whether it gets validated. But that's what I think.
Thank you. So parents will have to act as teachers, and home will be the school for the children in the coming days.
And they'll have to use some tools, because on their own, the parents, in fact, the first video that went viral all over the world was a Palestinian parent, right, who was given instructions by the school what all should be taught. And she ranted and raved and said, why did you put the child in school if I have to do everything? What do I know about his guitar lessons? How do I know how to solve his algebraic equation? I don't know anything. So she's ranting on, and that became viral. Even though it was in Arabic, they put subtitles in English, and it became viral all over the world. So, it's a big challenge. So therefore, probably the school can work and see which are these tools, and simply give them these video lessons and say, and find nice ways to evaluate whether the children have learned it. And like Nitya ma'am said, probably we can ask them to create stories and tell stories back. And all best is use it for life skills. Say that syllabus will catch up later. Let's focus on life skills, because one big challenge is going to be getting them to get up on time. If they had this discipline of catching the school bus at an exact time, and now sitting at home and no school bus, that indiscipline will set in. So you have to, educate parents that don't let that, indiscipline set in. Like it takes 21 days, and if at all there's a vaccine that's developed and everything starts, and if these people are not coming to school on time now because that indiscipline is there, that can be fixed, which is independent of whether there is COVID or not. So that is something that we can educate the parents in.
And sir, on that note, I would like to ask you that, I think parents are more stressed, and that stress is trickling down to the students as well. So, and a lot of times it happens that, parents are inefficient or unable to explain to the children, or because, if they say no too much, the child takes it in a negative way. So how can parents handle themselves and the children to turn this into a positive situation, to maintain the discipline, to keep themselves calm, themselves and the children?
So we've done it in the Art of Living schools. That's how we thought we'll educate the parents initially through circulars and documents, and nothing worked. And so we created this workshop called Know Your Child, and then later on when the children became teenagers, Know Your Teen. In fact, I am doing this weekend for these parents of the Sri Sri Academy in Kolkata. I'm doing this workshop online, Know Your Child. I did that. I've been doing it every week for the last 1.5 months. I've reached in online itself about 600 parents, and the ones that I've trained to take have probably reached all the other countries. Now parallelly I see this workshop happening, because what happens is when they get an insight and when they learn techniques, like Nitya ma'am was saying, that when she taught breathing techniques to the children, so we also, as part of the Know Your Child, teach a couple of breathing techniques to parents, how they can become more calmer, right? And of course the longer term is the actually Art of Living workshop where they learn Sudarshan Kriya and all that, but those things have really helped. So we have to give them insight into breathing and meditation, so that when they are calm, they can become much better parents, and that itself solves. And I have a very nice example from one of our schools in Bangalore. So we had a Parsi parent who came and said, will you take admission for my child? So we said, yeah, but why are you so worried about it? Why are you coming and asking with so much worry? No, I want to be honest with you guys. My son was thrown out of 4 other schools before we came here. In the last 1 year. That means he never stayed more than 3 months in each school. So we said, why? What happened? Because he bites the teacher. So the teachers are able to take anything, but not a child who comes and bites. Then we realized where the root cause of the problem was. So we said, yeah, don't worry, come, we'll take the child. So what had happened was this child was so energetic and bubbly, and was always running around and troubling. And the first thing that the parents would do was shout at him or hit him. And the child was just not getting better of it. So we realized that when the child is angry, it's there in the Vedas as well. The child's anger has to be swallowed by the parents and the teacher. You also can't be angry when the child is angry. So the first thing our teacher did was hug the child. And the child had not been hugged for a year. So it was not able to take it. First day, second day. But third day, it started to like the feeling of being hugged, being taken care of, being cared for. So 4th day onwards, his child would come running and hug the teacher. It was just 6-year-old, it's just standard one. And then the teacher started giving responsibility. Oh, you're so strong. Can you help me carry the books? So this combination of responsibility and care and love completely changed the child in just 3 weeks. And the parents came back and said, he's no longer hitting the younger children. What have you done? And then we had to educate them also and say, you also need to start hugging. When the child is angry, doesn't matter who's right or wrong, you need to give a hug. Right? So that means the parent, like you, Prachi, correctly said, has to be calm. And the breathing techniques that we teach during these workshops helps them remain calm. And so therefore, keeping that calmness, accepting the situation, and then taking the decision where, okay, how can I now do the best? I can't change things which are not in my control, but let me be positive in this whole perspective. And let me bring that positivity from the way I keep my energy levels higher, rather than intellectually telling myself, be positive, be positive, be positive, but remain that way because I am breathing nicely, I am breathing very calmly and deeply. And that positivity, I interact with my child, it makes a big difference in the way I treat my child.
If I can just add one more point, Ms. Prachi, what we did was, I conducted a session on the different kinds of learning styles a child may have. And we trained the parents to observe their child with a set of simple questionnaires, whether he's a visual learner, whether he's an auditory learner, or whether he's a kinesthetic learner. We didn't get into very many jargon, very simple ones. Like, what does he do when you do this? And then we said that when an online class is happening or when something is happening, give that freedom. If he's a child who's visual, let him draw. If he's a child who wants to move about and learn, it's okay. Don't expect him to sit in one place for 45 minutes. So knowing your child and the way he learns will enable you be calmer. That's how the teacher accommodates all learning styles in class. So you have one child, you have two children. Just understand them and modify your behavior to suit them is the session we too did. And that's interesting. I've taken a tip from you, Mr. Murlidhar, about importance of parents also breathing and, controlling their, being mindful.
Yes, thank you. Because if parents have this insecurity or they are scared, then it trickles down to the children also. So I think parents need to be a little more calm. I think we have some teachers waiting and who would wish to ask questions. Anucha, would you like to bring them in?
Ma'am and panelists, I would like to take your leave because if, we would like to keep the screen a little clear. So,
nice meeting you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much
for the opportunity.
Thank you,
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhat. So we...
I'm going to ask Miss Molly.
Okay.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Molly Chakraborty. I'm a teacher of Sri Sri Academy. Sir, I had a question for you. Namaste, sir. I had a question for you, sir. Sir, in this lockdown, can you suggest some activities that the children can do at home in order to improve their speaking skills?
So there are a lot of apps today where you can record. Okay, you can record and it plays back to you, both audio and video. So this is something that a lot of communication trainers use. So probably I can give you some details of those apps, or you probably already know them. You could probably educate all your children, give them an assignment. Typical assignment would be, what is your biggest passion? What do you really like? So something that they can naturally speak about. Ask them to record it. And if you are a teacher of that class, they have to submit those recordings to you. And you listen to those recordings, you see those videos. Because if you do it in live, it's very difficult. Let them record it, let them revise it, and submit it to you. And today you have Google Drive, we can submit it on online, and then review it and give them feedback. In fact, Shankar Mahadevan Academy runs their whole music program like this. They teach people all over the world, and they play a musical note, and then the teacher says at which minute the child was wrong. So you can make a difference that way. So if you want to improve the communication, of course, you could probably have one class. Tell them what is communication, how you should behave, what is body language. You could probably teach that in the beginning, but then get them to actually record and send that across to you. So that will help.
Thank you so
Nitya,
much.
would you like to add something?
No. I in fact, I was going to say the same thing. There are a lot of audio files available, and the children can pick up language. And I would still go back to my own thing of stories. Make children listen to stories. Explanation, expression, feelings. That's important.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Next teacher.
Yes, ma'am. We'll have Miss Anupam.
Just inform her.
Yes, ma'am. I've already told her.
Dr. Kaushik is not there. She had a question.
Yes, ma'am. I told her.
I think Pooja is also waiting.
Yes, ma'am. Preetam sir also.
Is she there?
Yes, ma'am. Her video is not coming.
Anupam, you'll have to switch on your video.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Good evening, ma'am. My question is, how do we assess that the home assignment which we are giving is not being done by the parents of students?
Ma'am,
if we want to mark them on their...
Yeah, Anupam, can you repeat that question? It's not clear.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. How do we assess that assignments that we are giving is not being done by the parents of the students. As if we want to mark them on their enrichment activity and notebook, then we should have some criteria, isn't it? Or not, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, could you get your question?
No, but Anupam, is this for this period or for any other period? Are you concerned about the homework being done by the parents during COVID times or other times?
I think a video is stuck on. Anusha, just tell her. Yeah, maybe you can get the next teacher. There's some problem with her video. I think there's a network issue, I guess. Anupam? You can bring in the next teacher.
Yes, ma'am. I'll just get.
This itself shows the value that if you don't have good internet connection, how it's so difficult to teach.
Yes, yes. We have issues like these we've been facing, especially with children who stay outside in certain parts of the country, like parts of Bihar, Sikkim, even Darjeeling also there's a problem. I think Pooja is here.
True. That's a very big challenge. I think
yes.
2-3 years from now it'll get solved.
Good evening, Pooja.
Actually, it's been raining here very heavily, so I think there's a network issue.
Yes.
Pooja ma'am, can you hear us?
Yeah,
good afternoon, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's network issue. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Good evening, Pooja.
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, Pooja. Please go ahead. Pooja?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, I'll just ask my question. Hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. My name is Pooja Pradhan, and I'm pre-primary teacher in Sri Academy, Siliguri. So my question is to you, ma'am. Like, as a pre-primary teacher, I just want to ask you how teachers, especially the pre-primary teachers, can talk to children about coronavirus. Like, it is difficult for them to explain. They are very small, just 3 to 5 years of age. So how can we explain them about this COVID-19?
So I did a very small experiment for the children, very easy one. I'm sure you have seen it or you must have done it. So
yes,
you take a little plate of water and you add pepper powder on it. And then you ask the child to touch that. So he will have little peppers sticking on his finger. And then you ask him to take 2 plates of pepper powder and water. Ask the child to touch one, he will have it on his finger. In the other one, ask him to touch his finger with soap and touch the pepper water. The pepper will just move away. It's a very simple experiment. 2 plates of water. Ask the child to touch it and it will stick. And then the next one, what happens is when you touch soap, the pepper powder will just move away, and tell him that this is what happens. When there is this little black virus all around, you can see, you can feel it. They stick to you, but you don't know. However, if you wash your hands, if you cover yourself, they will all go away. And there is this very interesting book which Singapore has released about COVID virus for pre-primary children, the early childhood group. I will share it with Ms. Pradhan and she will share it with all of you. It's a beautiful storybook. I'll share the file with her.
Sure, thank you. Anything you want to add?
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yes, Mr. Murlidhar, you want to add anything to it? I think Pooja has brought up this question because she has a daughter studying in senior KG. Now she's gone to class 1. I believe Kavya asked this question, right, Pooja?
You can make it relevant. This
Yes.
experiment is very
Yes,
nice. What
ma'am.
Nitya ma'am just said, it's very nice to educate them how to prevent, but how to tell them what it is going to be. You can make it relevant to them. What happened to you when you got a cold?
Yes,
How was
sir.
you feeling? Then they'll start explaining, oh, my nose got stuck and I was getting hot
Yes,
and
yes,
mama was putting this and so on and so forth. This is exactly like that, right? Do you want it? You don't want it, right? That's why you should not go out. And if you are going to eat, every time you eat, keep washing your hands
yes, sir.
and do that experiment. So you have to make it relevant to them. The moment you make it relevant to them,
Yes,
they know what the experience is. Very rarely you will have a 3-year-old child who's not fallen sick, right? So they would have fallen at least
It's a
once.
very valid point. That's valid point. In fact, I have another little journal which again
so much, sir.
Singapore has released from in the early childhood. I have 2 granddaughters who are in that age group. So I will share that file with you where they learn to make a little journal during this COVID times.
That's good. Yeah, so you can do that experiment with Kavya to Pooja and see what she has to say.
Yes, ma'am. Surely, surely I'll do that. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else, Anusha?
Yes, ma'am. Preetham, sir.
Okay, so you can bring him in. Thank you, Pooja. Mostly, I think the little ones have a lot of questions. Yes. Good evening, Preetham.
So you're not audible.
Policy. Can't hear.
Am I audible right now, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. In the last year, we had a new educational, National Educational Policy 2019. There has been a draft by Ministry of Human Resource and Development 2019. So in that particular draft, in that National Educational Policy, there have been many recommendations like integrating of educational technology in the school curriculum and so on. So based on this certain recommendations, and right now we are very much using the technology for giving the for the classes, online classes. So in that case, keeping in mind about the long-term impact of this virus, is there any probability that there will be any changes in the draft? Is there any probability, any probable chances that there will be some changes in the recommendations of the new draft policy, education policy?
You want me to answer?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I know one of the authors of the policy is a good friend of mine, Dr. Sridhar. We had an education conference in Bangalore last year and he was one of the main speakers. So one of the aspects of that is they want to definitely listen to what is happening around and take feedback and make sure that it's an evolving plan. And they were planning to release it in June, but I have a feeling that they will postpone it by a few months and will incorporate all of these things into it. And they have kept their MHRD link open. Any one of us can go there and give feedback on our own experiences, what tools helped, what technologies helped, and so on and so forth. I, for one, am going to talk about how do you make sure they've actually learned. Because, when you're in class as a teacher, you can actually see it in the eyes of the children. You can ask some nice, interesting questions and validate. How do you validate? You don't have that much time. You have 20 children. I'm just saying, because it may take another 2 months at least. Already in Bangalore, they've clearly made it very clear that no school can start before July 1st. For sure. Okay, no school can start before July 1st.
In Maharashtra, they are saying nothing before August. Primary schools are not opening till August or September.
So you have no
primary. You were so right.
Correct.
Below 5th standard, they're not opening at
Correct.
all.
So therefore, the recommendation, the advice or the suggestion that I would be giving on the portal is you have to find a way to validate whether the child has learned, because that is something that is the main thing that you will miss in a remote class. The children will love it. In China, you know what happened, right? There's a beautiful app which was meant for video conferencing, and they immediately adapted it and made it very easy for teaching. It had a 4.5 rating on 5. and the children had holidays. The moment that app became completely ready for teaching, the government made it mandatory that all students had to install that app, and the teachers had to teach using that app. It was like something like Google, but like Zoom, but one step ahead, because Zoom does not let you add comments, does not let you do so many things to each person. You can do it for everybody. Whereas that app allowed you to identify for a particular child and say, hey, you're not paying attention, you answer this for me, and it'll come on his screen. He has to answer. So he can't bunk. He can't bunk class. He can't run away from the questions the teacher asks. So it became a very active, very nice ecosystem, but the children hated it so much. They went to the app store and gave it a low rating and brought it down to 1.5. And the people who developed the app had to come on TV and plead with the students, don't bring down our rating, our stock exchange, our stocks also will come down because the rating has come down. So please don't do that. The government asked us to build all these features and we've done it for them. And why are you bringing the rating down? So, it's a challenge. The children didn't want it. Okay, so that's going to be a big challenge for the next 3 months. How are you going to evaluate
this? And
I think this is the feedback that we need to give it back and say, incorporate something where they will accept some of these things given by the teachers. I think sometimes it's like a jatka. We have to use this as to create a revolution in education. Probably go the Finland way and allow the local teachers to have more say rather than centralizing too many things.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Pritam.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
As we are heading closer to 5 o'clock, Chandrama, I have another meeting.
Yes, ma'am. I think last one teacher's waiting, Gargi. We'll take a last question. Yeah. Yeah, Gargi's here.
Yes. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Good evening. I had a question. Should I ask?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, ma'am. I am Gargi Tharpurkayasta. I'm the science teacher in Sri Sri Academy, Siliguri. I had a question regarding the practical classes for science subjects. Like in the present situation when we have no idea as to when the schools are going to reopen. So I, as a science teacher, would like to know, can you suggest some means to conduct the practical classes, like and the lab-based activities for the secondary and the upper primary classes? We are taking online theoretical classes, but practicals we are facing a lot of problem. But many portions are there which are associated directly to the practicals. So we don't have labs, and how can we help the students?
Okay, if I remember right, you will start with measurement. For physics, you will start with measurement, then you have heat, light, electricity, sound, and magnetism. And so what you could do, depending upon the unit that you're teaching, measurement, you have standard units and you have got those measurement units and you have measures of weighing balances. If I remember my curriculum right, nothing seems to have changed. In sleep also, I can tell you NCF curriculum.
Yes, ma'am.
So the thing is, for measurement, you can ask them to measure with their hand span, with their foot span, and ask the adults in the house to do it and see that there is no standardization. Then they can take a measuring tape, they can take a scale, and then they can measure and convert it. With respect to heat experiments, what you can tell them is, especially for conduction, very simple one which you can do is with the coat hanger. Coat hanger, and you have these little, pins attached with the melted wax, candle wax. Children can just see that, and even the little spiral snake to see convection currents moving up. Or even in hot water, you drop any color, any food color you drop, even haldi you drop, it will come up. So once, in fact, if through Ms. Pradhan, you can send me the list of experiments that are listed today, because offhand I'm not able to tell you. I could guide you. And with respect to starch, this is the best thing. I think one of the first lessons they do in biology is identification of nutrients. What are the different kinds of nutrients that are there in the food? You have proteins, you have starch, carbohydrates. So that was very simple ones they can do beautifully at home. You don't need a lab for that.
No, and chemistry are for
and even chemistry, you don't need a lab only. Even in chemistry experiments, whatever they're doing in terms of you you have fiber to fabric. They can do wonderful experiments at home. You've got this food, then you've got this heat, which is very simple. It's an integrated science book. So you can take one chapter and do that at home. You don't need to worry about it or give them something at home and they can find it out. Send me the list of chapters. I'll support you. I'll support it to Ms. Pradhan. Not an issue.
We'll send it across. Mr. Murlidhar, would you like to add?
Yeah, Arvind Gupta Toys. Arvind Gupta is an IITian from IIT Bombay who spent all his life in creating science experiments from home. So his videos are there. I'll send you the link to his videos. So you can, whatever experiment you want, of course, Nitya ma'am may have some interesting exercises that she's done herself. Use this also and go to Arvind Gupta Toys and see what toys he has created and educate the parents and the children to create such toys and be prepared for your next class. And then, I mean, of course, it's not going to be highly effective, but you will.
Arvind is a hot favorite of mine, Mr. Murlidhar.
Oh, I see.
Not from him.
I see. Wonderful.
You know, especially the sound, and there's so many things he can do from nothing.
Right. In fact, I am an advisor on the board of a company called Connecting the Dots. Both of us were IITians, classmates at IIT Madras. And he was with Infosys for 20 years. Right now, he does everything remotely. He has a studio in Bangalore and he trains teachers and students in more than 300 schools all over Bangalore, Karnataka, especially government schools and small private schools. He does all the science experiments inside there and he makes them also do those experiments there. So, I'll give you some examples of that. There are some videos of that on YouTube. But Arvind Gupta is somebody who's been doing for many, many years, and it's all very simple things.
Very hot favorite. Many of my lesson plans are based on his, and it is free to use.
Very true.
They don't charge you anything. And another simple thing which I did for the children on sinking and floating is when you take a little orange, you drop it in water. With the skin, the orange floats. You remove the skin, it sinks. And through that, as Mr. Murlidhar, the life skills I told the children is learn to protect yourself. The more you protect yourself, you insulate yourself from people's negative thoughts, negative words, negative actions, you will not be affected. But the minute you remove that skin, you will get affected and you will get a sinking feeling. Especially this experiment I used to narrate it even for adults. Don't allow this to be negative around you. You get a sinking feeling of depression. Protect yourself with an outer covering of positivity. So that's how I link the experiment. And we have a STEM lab, right? We do them in our schools. We do everything from home.
Wonderful. Really nice experiment.
That's a very good example.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I think that was the last question.
Thank you, Chandrama. It's been very nice. Thank you, Mr. Murlidhar. Wonderful meeting you. We must be back. Thank you.
Very true. Let's connect sometime. It's really wonderful.
It's been very helpful it'll be very helpful for the teachers as well as the parents. I hope to share this with the parents. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.